A very good morning once again, and many thanks for staying with us right here on the number one breakfast show in the country, Morning at NTV. Online, I already do have the digital country lead for the United Nations Capital Development Fund, and that's none other than Mr. Chris, Lukolio. Mr. Chris Lukolio is the digital country lead and is going to be interesting us with the Kampala Innovation Week. What should we be readying ourselves for? But before I get into the nitty-gritties of that conversation, do not forget that this cap is riddled with a lot of magic. This magic will go a long way in helping you resuscitate your body's creative processes in that regard so that you can conquer your day. Chilliness aside, this Inspire Africa coffee will actually do the impossible. Yes, giving you those ideas that were actually escaping you. Yes, because maybe you were under a lot of stress. You know, you have a lot that is on your table. COVID-19 pandemic that is raging with 254.5 million infections, and you're like, well, why do I have to come up with ideas? I'm going to die anyway. You're not. We do have vaccines on the market. Just go and get vaccinated. But in that regard, to resuscitate your creative processes, you need a cap of Inspire Africa Coffee. Very good morning to the CEO of Inspire Africa Coffee, that is Mr. Nelson Tagume. We see you and we love you right here on Morning at NTV. YouLesson is that app that you need to maximize on for your child to continue with their learning, maximizing on the power of the internet. Those are such innovations that we want to talk about also that will go a long way in helping people sustain their lives during this COVID-19 pandemic. Chris Lukolio is joining me right now, the digital country lead for the United Nations Capital Development Fund. A very good morning, Mr. Lukolio. Thank you for joining us once again. This is not the first time you're appearing on this morning show. How are you doing today?
It's not my first time here, but it's good to be back. I'm doing well. Thank you so much. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, sir. The Kampala Innovation Week is upon us. Yes. What should we be readying ourselves for?
Well, you should ready yourselves for yet another showcase of Uganda's innovation and creativity. As you know, we have gone through roughly 2 years of a pandemic, and yet we still have the opportunity to harness the power of digital innovation, the power of entrepreneurship, in order to create jobs and really empower people to transform their lives. So this is really for Uganda's digital transformation, for job creation, and for economic sustainability. So you should look forward to seeing various innovations. And really at UNCDF, as we implement our strategy on leaving no one behind in the digital era, we're really focusing on sort of pushing for inclusive innovation, that you will see innovations that are taking into account the circumstances of underserved communities.
All right. What are some of the challenges that have dogged these innovators during this COVID-19 pandemic? You know, dampening their resolve to come up with very, very good initiatives that could have gone a long way to actually showcase sustainability during this COVID-19 pandemic. More or less, the challenges that are actually, making it hard for our innovators to actually come up with very good ideas.
That's a very good point. Indeed, COVID has been a major challenge. As you know, we were unable to travel. Entrepreneurs were unable to interact with one another. And so really, you know, in normal times, as an entrepreneur, you would come up with an idea, you would pitch it to potential investors, you would show it to potential partners. The challenges have included the lack of opportunities to interact. And so really to raise money or even to find the right skills, all right, to bring their innovations to life. And so actually events like Kampala Innovation Week allow for that type of interaction. And as you might know, this year it's going to be a mixture of both virtual and in person, but really bringing together almost 20,000 viewers. And the idea here is to foster those interactions, to foster those conversations, to have potential investors meet these startups so that we can really foster those partnerships. And so, you know, even if it's been a challenging couple of years, this is what the Innovation Week will help us to achieve.
Mr. Chris Lukolio, what are some of the businesses that are going to be participating in the Kampala Innovation Week?
Yeah. Well, as you know, I don't know if you've heard about Startup Uganda. Startup Uganda is an association of innovation and entrepreneurship support organizations. And so underneath that umbrella, you have various providers of solutions that are geared towards healthcare. You have providers of solutions that are geared towards more efficient and effective agriculture. You have organizations that are looking at better ways to deliver education. So really a variety of innovations that are looking at these large sectors that impact large numbers of Ugandans. So I hope that gives you a flavor. Well, we also have several in the financial services sector. So, many times enabling us to use digital financial services to better access services that we use in our day-to-day lives, as well as, basic things like payment for tuition, payment for healthcare, that kind of thing. We have several innovations along those lines.
And of course, we do have a levy of 12% levy of tax on the internet and data. And of course, many of these innovators want to maximize on the power of the internet to come up with many of these innovations. Don't you think that is going to be a huge challenge? I actually thought you were going to mention it as part of the challenges when I did ask that question.
It is one of the challenges. It's unfortunately, we cannot focus on the problem and fail to innovate. So one of the things that we're doing is sort of trying to work with government partners to see how we can bring those costs down. And of course, showcasing these innovations allows to make a case, that look, you have all these potential innovators and you have these challenges. How can we work with policymakers to solve them? And so even if you have the levy, the taxation on internet connectivity and other things, I think that ultimately the purpose here is to show, what potential we have and how entrepreneurs are still, in spite of those challenges, are harnessing innovation, they're harnessing partnerships, they are able to create solutions that are addressing day-to-day problems. Now, we know that, policymakers recognize this, and I'm having some really good conversations to make the case for how can we continue to, on the one hand, we need to raise revenue, government needs to raise revenue, but on the other hand, we need to support entrepreneurs to come up with these solutions. So there's a balancing act, and we are engaging quite a lot with policymakers to see where the middle ground is.
Okay, Chris Lukholo, let's talk about what government can do. What measures can the government put in place to create a more enabling environment for our innovators and businesses to thrive so that they drive development within this jurisdiction of Uganda?
Could you repeat that? You want to know about the funding gap?
No, I would like to know about the measures government could put in place to create a more enabling environment for our innovators and businesses to thrive so that they could drive development in this country.
Indeed. I think one of the things that government could put in place and is already doing is to enable opportunities for training, all right? That we cannot have good solutions if the general public is not empowered to receive those solutions. So, there are several innovation hubs that have been set up in the private sector, but also in the public sector. So you've heard of the Uganda ICT Institute, you've heard of, there are several opportunities to actually train young people to address those barriers. Another aspect of this environment that can be put in place is actually having a political environment that's sort of calm and safe enough that we can attract investors. And so, being able to exchange ideas and fruitful ideas in a sort of calm political environment is actually a very important thing. The other aspect that's been put in place, that can be put in place, is actually to have space for, for these collaborations to happen. And so even as we talk about Kampala Innovation Week, that forum is being made possible with several partnerships. And that alone, things like that are an example of forums that are being put in place to foster collaboration and conversations and innovation. And so these are some of the ways in which government can continue to foster innovation and collaboration and help us to sort of harness entrepreneurship and innovation to create jobs and get us out of this pandemic.
Of course, Chris Lukholo, we also do know that many of these business startups do not live to see or celebrate their first, but they would like to know what challenges have persisted and what we can do right now to resolve all that.
So some of the challenges that have persisted for these startups, always access to capital is a big one. One of the things that we do at the UN Capital Development Fund is really to help to de-risk some of these new innovative business models, because usually startups are unable to raise money because the business models might be a bit too risky for the traditional investor. And so showcasing that business model, helping to de-risk that, helping to pilot it on a small scale so that it can be seen to be viable is a very important aspect of what we do. the other challenge faced by innovators in this country is that, there is a real lack of high-level skills that, you can imagine a software developer or a data scientist. These are highly skilled specializations that are, first of all, they're expensive, but also they're not in high supply. And so the right skills are also a challenge to come by. Now, we also do have the challenge that even when we come up with viable business models, or when we come up with solutions that solve problems, many times the target communities don't have access to the right devices or connectivity, or even the right knowledge to use these solutions. So there is also a challenge on the demand side. And so, the solutions that are needed are sort of comprehensive, that the enabling environment has to be on both the supply and the demand side. I think...
Indeed. Go ahead.
Go ahead, please.
Go ahead, Chris. Your last
No, I was saying that entrepreneurs are, one of the things that we're seeing is that they are, they're coming together more to advocate for more resources. As I talked about Startup Uganda being an association of entrepreneurship and innovation support organizations, the idea here is that they're alleviating some of these challenges by actually coming together. So they can advocate for resources, they can advocate for better policies, they can create partnerships to overcome some of these challenges.
All right, you also did talk about the issue of demand. There is lesser demand. Now, is that issue precipitated by the fact that these people are illiterate or ignorant about the existence of these startups being on the market? And what can we do by sensitizing the people or the masses about the existence of such technology that will go a long way in helping them? My question actually pertains to the fact whether or not these people willfully refuse to use these startups, or they just don't know about their existence.
That's a good question. No, people do not willfully just refuse to use solutions. We have to create solutions that actually solve day-to-day problems that people have. So many times I think that the challenge we face is that you might have innovators who create a solution and then look for the problem. I think that's the wrong way to do it. We need to involve the communities we serve in the creation of the solution. Because if we know what problems they face on a day-to-day basis, we know how they could use the solution, we know what challenges they face in language, so we create the solution to fit the means of communication that are best convenient for them, we will be able to deliver solutions that are valuable. So no, I don't think that target communities simply refuse to use these solutions. It's simply that these solutions do not meet their problems. They don't solve their day-to-day problems. So that would be the challenge. And I think that some of the things that we can do is, yes, we can continue to empower these communities with the right knowledge and skills. There are efforts now to mainstream more and more technology and digital technologies into day-to-day mainstream curricula in education. That's one way. We do, and I mean, there are efforts to sensitize communities about new innovations, but ultimately it has to have value. Indeed. It has to solve something for the community in order to be taken up.
All right.
And as we see innovators at Kampala Innovation Week, you will see more and more of that.
And of course, Chris Lukolia shall be clamoring for the Kampala Innovation Week, particularly to find out what kind of solutions are there for the agricultural sector. Do we have any solutions, whether or not our farmers could be able to, tell whether it's going to rain or it's going to be a prolonged drought? Do we have such solutions at the Kampala Innovation Week? What is there in store for the agricultural sector, Mr. Lukolia?
Yeah. No, well, rather than speak about specific solutions, I will tell you that there are solutions that are geared towards smarter ways to pay for agriculture.
Indeed.
There are solutions for connecting farmers to markets. We also have opportunities to access, e-extension and e-advisory services. So, these are just some of the solutions that you will be able to see at the Kampala Innovation Week. There are several predictive solutions. I will talk to specific ones of them. But ultimately, these are the kinds of things that, as we talk to more and more entrepreneurs, when they see us, for innovation, they are going into these communities, understanding the problems, and then developing solutions to meet those problems. And this is why, bringing them together under Startup Uganda is important, and that's why showcasing their skills at the Kampala Innovation Week is very important.
All right, thank you very much, Chris Lucolio. But before I let you go, where is it happening and when? Plus, what do you hope to achieve at the end of the day?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, it will be a virtual event. If you go to Kampala Innovation Week, you search for Kampala Innovation Week or go to kiw.ug, you will be able to see the link to the platform that will be used. Kampala Innovation Week is happening from 22nd to 26th of November. And so that's the whole of next week. And what we have to expect is that there will be opportunities to showcase innovations, not just in Uganda, but across the globe. We will have presentations, we will have potential partners reaching out, and we will be able to see what the universe is of solutions that are available in this market.
Mr. Chris, because of the low internet penetration in our country at 40%, don't you think you're going to miss out on the brilliant minds within the rural areas who can actually get onto their phone or even the internet to actually espouse to you what they have in store for the country as far as innovation and startups are concerned? Low penetration of the internet, the people in the rural areas, innovators.
You're absolutely right that indeed, because of the low internet penetration, we do miss out on a lot of the interaction that we could have. But, the target for this is also, innovators and startups. So many times these, rather than the general population, sometimes the creators of these different solutions are able to get to, internet cafes. They're able to use, the different innovation hubs that we're bringing together under Startup Uganda are spread across the country.
Yeah.
And so they too are areas that offer opportunities for people to come in and connect and listen in. Now, it won't be just virtual. There will be opportunities for in-person. There are other means of communication and dissemination. So it is true that we do have challenges, but there are various ways of interaction and enabling people to join the conversation. And so we will be able to not completely miss out on all the voices because they will be able to join. Even if it's not live streaming, they can join after the fact. They can look at different reports. They can look at communications that have been put out by these different entrepreneurs.
And it's at this opportune moment that Morning at 10 TV would like to call on to the government to scrap the 12% tax on data. Seriously, the people in the rural areas are missing out. And also for purposes of continued education, because he did talk about digitizing the education sector. Please, let's do away with this 12% tax on data. It's doing a lot more harm than good. Mr. Chris Lucolio, before I let you go, yes, what are some of your parting shots?
Indeed, my parting shot is that, look, we at UNCDF are trying to foster an inclusive digital economy. We want to see, as we try to achieve the SDGs, that underserved communities, and indeed all of us, are able to access and use digital platforms, digital service offerings to improve our productivity and our well-being. And so mine is a call to action for innovators to indeed come up with solutions that address the challenges of underserved communities. I'm also reaching out to policymakers to work with us to create a more enabling policy and regulatory environment. We are working with various stakeholders to build the knowledge and skills of underserved communities. And so I encourage you all to join in this effort to ensure that no one's left behind in the digital era. Thank you so much.
Chris Lucolio, he is the digital country lead at the United Nations Capital Development Fund. Thank you very much, sir. I shall be making my way to the Kampala Innovation Week on the 22nd all the way to the 26th, Mr. Lucolio, to find out what kind of solutions are there for the education sector and the health sector. But if you can actually give us some pointers on that, what could they be? Are there solutions for education and health? Lucolio.
Was that a question for me?
Yes. Do you have any solutions for health and also education?
There are solutions for health and education. Again, many of them are geared towards how can we do a better job of enabling people to pay for healthcare, to save for healthcare. Because as you know, many times the most disruptive cost that many households will face is when a loved one falls sick. And so having innovative solutions that allow people to slowly save for these eventualities or pay for these for healthcare when they most need it, I think these are some of the solutions that you will see. Also in education, we are seeing more and more solutions that are geared towards innovative ways to deliver useful content to underserved communities and to the general public. We're also seeing more and more solutions that actually take advantage of offline opportunities. So you don't always have to be online to deliver educational content. You can be offline, and later on, you can synchronize back up and get updates. We're also seeing, of course, solutions that are looking at payments for education, that are looking at better ways to access education, even in far removed communities. So again, giving you a quick flavor there across the different sectors.
And of course, I'm fully gassed up to actually go and, engage with the Kampala Innovation Week that shall be taking center stage from the 22nd all the way to the 26th of November this very year. Thank you very much, Chris Lukolio, the Digital Country Lead at the United Nations Capital Development Fund. Regards to everyone working there and the whole conglomerate. And of course, you're still watching Morning at NTV. My name is Romeo Busiku. Stephen Mbide will be joining us later on, but shortly after these messages.